Hello everyone, welcome to this week's podcast. So I broke my tongue a few days ago, so if I sound a bit weird or stutter a bit more, it's because of my tongue. I have a bit of pain when I talk, but I gotta talk sometimes. So last week I spoke about insecurity and projecting them onto other people. Today I sort of wanted to speak about something a bit related to that, and that's this delusion that we kind of create inside of ourselves that our friends are not really our friends. And this is something that I feel like I constantly go through, where I have friends in my life and they do a lot for me. They really go out of their way to make plans with me. We hang out. I'm able to tell them things. They tell me things that I feel very honored that they trust me with, and I'd still find a way to convince myself that they're not really my friends or something like that. And that's seriously such a problem, because it creates this barrier between us, but it also causes me to go spiraling down into my depression or something. So one of the things I've been trying to do is really try to, I don't know the correct terminology, but find something that really anchors me in this reality. Because the things that I use to delude myself is really not reality. It's an illusion that I created myself. So one of the things that I really try to do is really find things that help me to always, every time I think about it or remember it, or when I start spiraling down or creating this illusion again, I have to really bring myself back to that. It could be I'd hang out with my friends or something, and we'd have a really good time, and I feel good about it. But then either they'll say one thing that I would overthink about or take the wrong way, or I'll just spend a lot of time by myself and I'll start just thinking about things, or start feeling why is nobody contacting me, why is nobody making time for me, or something like that. And honestly, I feel like it's a little bit selfish for me to think that way sometimes, but I can't really help it. And a lot of the time it is just my mentality. It is a lot of anxiety, because I do experience a lot of anxiety, and I do tend to overthink and to create a lot of scenarios in my head. And I think this is a really common thing that people go through. And I do feel after experiencing being on the other side of this, having someone that I really value as a friend and that I really want to see the best happen in their life, and I really want to see them living their best life, seeing them experience the same thing with me, where they assume that I don't want to be their friend anymore, or that I'm not really there for them, or something like that. It really changed the perspective. I realized how it feels when I act like that to other people, and I don't usually verbalize this as well. I keep it inside, but it's kind of the same thing. It actually might be a little bit worse, because the other person doesn't even know how I'm feeling and why I'm acting the way that I act. So it makes me feel, so when it happened, it made me really feel, I felt horrible, because I really cared about this person, and just for them to say those things. But it's not that I was offended by anything that they were saying, but it was more I felt bad for them, because I didn't want them, I hated seeing them feeling this way and seeing them talk this way, not just about me, but it was almost like they were stabbing at their own wounds. And it was just, it kind of hurt. It hurt to see them that way. And I really wanted to be there for them, but the thing that made it difficult was that they wouldn't let me be there for them. They were convinced, even though I never said anything that I think would convince them to do that. Like I do understand sometimes where they're coming from, because sometimes I do tend to be a bit absent, but that's not because of any one person. It's just because that's how I am. And I do try to be very upfront about it so that people don't get the wrong impression from me, because there have been a lot of times where people have gotten the wrong impression from just the way I act or talk sometimes. But usually I mean the best for everyone. Just sometimes I'm not able to handle socializing so much. But yeah, experiencing that, it made me realize a lot. And I realized, I think it was last year, I was starting to spiral down again, and I was keeping my friends outside of like my circle, and I completely isolated myself. And I think it also happened this year during quarantine time, where I had to stay home for like a month. I enjoyed staying home for that month, but I also started to do this, where I was not allowing people inside of my walls, and that created this really horrible like mentality inside of me. And I started to just start thinking so many things, where I would like just start thinking like they didn't really want to associate with me. They were so much better than me. I'm so much lower than them. I'm not good enough. I'm this. And then it made me spiral down even further and further. And I just started to think like, do they really want me in their life? Do they really like me? And when I look back on it, it was not productive at all. And not productive in the sense of like trying to get things done, trying to grind, but it was just more like, to make progress on my mental health, it like kind of set me back a lot. And when I was able to like come out of it, I eventually spoke to like my pastor. I spoke to a couple of my friends, and I realized that they actually do care. And it was only when I wasn't like kind of clouded by that delusion was I able to see that people do care about me. And I need to stop like judging them on like how much they care about me, or how much they are my friend or something like that. I have to just allow them to be my friend, allow them to be there for me. One of the things I realized is that when I'm going through something difficult, the people who are actually my friend and actually there for me, they will be there for me and they will be my friend. I just need to let them be my friend and let them be there for me. So, that's something that I've kind of come to learn. So these days, what I try to do is, when I do go through something really difficult, and I really try to have those certain friends that I'm okay to speak to, and I will go to them first. And then the other thing is, I have people on the internet that I speak to as well, because even though like I do consider them my friends, but because they are like on the internet and from like places around the world, it does sort of feel like there's a level of like anonymity to it, or like they don't know any of like people that I know in real life. So it kind of like it's this weird thing where they're kind of like really like separated from my life, but at the same time they're in my life. So I feel a little bit more okay speaking to them about things. But also like, I do feel like when something really serious happens to me, I do need like a day or two to kind of like let it simmer a bit, and for me to like process things. And once I get that chance, I feel a bit more okay to speak to people about things. And I think this is in itself almost like a muscle. You got to train yourself to do it. The more you do it, the easier it will be to do this. So I really hope that you don't feel like you're a burden on your friends, or that all your friends are not your friends. One of the things that I found myself doing a lot, and I feel like sometimes I still do it, but not as much as before, I'd find ways to convince myself that I literally have no friends at all. And it's such a toxic mindset, because even though you do have people in your life that they would consider you their friend, you start doing this thing where you find any possible excuse to convince yourself that you don't have any friends at all. And when you start thinking like that, I feel like your mind starts to believe it, and you start getting like the symptoms of having no friends, even though you actually do. And then I feel like it also creates this thing where you kind of try to isolate yourself because you start believing that you don't have any friends, and then your friends aren't your friends anymore. And a lot of the time, even if you don't have many friends, or if you really don't have any friends, sometimes you might have just moved to a new country and you don't know anyone at all. Like, that's valid. Like I did say before, you can still make friends online, and it's not the same, but it's better than nothing. But one of the things I've learned throughout my mental health journey, I think I learned this lesson like years ago, actually. maybe my first or second year in Korea, I learned that having friends, a big part of it is you need to make the effort yourself. And it really sucks to hear this. I hated hearing this when I was really deep in my depression. But what I realized is that if I'm just staying at home, isolating myself and being pretty negative, and if I keep assuming that everyone's not my friend and I just stay away from them or whatever, I'm not gonna have any friends. Things changed when I started getting myself out there. I joined small groups at my church so that I could have like some kind of form of community there. I started using apps where you can go to meetups and find people with similar interests. Like, I started doing things. I started going outside. I started going to clubs, and not like nightclubs or anything, like sports clubs or art clubs and stuff. Like, I started doing like hobby related stuff and getting myself out there to meet people. And once I did that, it made a huge difference. And now I've met people that I really consider friends for, I guess, life. Even when I move back to Australia, I'll probably come back and visit them in Korea. They might come and visit me. And all it took was just making effort to go and meet people. So I think my main things to take away from today that I want to say is that when you have people in your life, don't push them away. Allow them to be your friend. Don't convince yourself that they're not your friend. Try to remember who they are in your life. And sometimes you convince yourself that they're not your friend, but you really want them to be. Maybe they already are. Maybe they consider you their friend, but you're finding so many ways to convince yourself, because depression does this thing where it just it wants you to be depressed, so it kind of attracts more depression into itself. And you gotta try your best. It's not easy, but you gotta try to find your best to overcome that. And remind yourself about the things that your friends have done for you, the things that you've done together, your memories together, and the memories that you will have together. And when you don't have friends or many friends at all, that's the time where, instead of being depressed and isolating yourself, that's the time where you start finding ways to meet friends and going out there, and also making online friends. I feel in this day and age, it's quite healthy to have some online and offline friends. I think it's really good to have someone that's you can always have someone there to talk to online, because it's kind of a at your fingertips sort of thing. And then I think it's so crucial to just have people that you can meet in person, have them right there in front of you that you can talk to. It just makes such a massive difference. I think I did ramble on a little bit today, but that's pretty much it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.